And we're seeing a lot of red across the alt sector again today, while Bitcoin just pulls the oxygen out of the room. Whether Bitcoin's moving up, moving down, it has been just absolutely dragging liquidity out of the market. We can see a little bit of green amongst the sea of red. We see Bitcoin Cash eking out 1.9% today, and we see BGB down here eking out 3.2%, but not a heck of a lot of green amongst all the red today. Pop it over to the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. Interestingly enough, we see that Crypto Fear and Greed is at 50 in the neutral zone. We can see on the line chart over here that recently Fear and Greed did double bottom off extreme greed. We had a little bit of a rally in sentiment here, bringing us up to the greedy zone, but ever since then, just cooling off and coming down to that 50 read. And over here on Counterflow, we can observe that there has been some positive inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs. We can see over here that on June 22nd, there was 374 million worth of positive net inflows. On June 23rd, we see 601 million. And on June 24th, there was 556 million worth of positive net inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs. So certainly we can observe a little bit of accumulation, at least with the ETFs. Let's quickly check out some of the noteworthy news articles today. We can see here a post from Watcher Guru that just in, Director of Digital Assets says the US is committed to passing crypto market structure legislation by September. And that's interesting. I kind of think that Q4 is where things get really interesting for the crypto space again, and this would certainly line up with that, so that's worth paying attention to. And we have another post here from Watcher Guru. Just in, White House official says Bitcoin is digital gold, and it's in the United States' best interest to accumulate as much BTC as we can possibly get. Let's have a listen to what Bo Hines had to say today.
There are a lot of different actors that held on to some Bitcoin in some fashion or another. Now the process begins in terms of establishing the reserve, the actual infrastructure behind it, and getting all of that accomplished. There's nothing in the EO that mandates that report become public, but we could choose to make it public at some point. And we are certainly keen on the idea of accumulation. We've stated publicly that Bitcoin is digital gold. We believe it's in the best interest of the United States to garner as much as we can possibly get. I've said that at every conference that I've spoken at in the last 2 to 3 months. Now, obviously, this has to be done in budget neutral ways that don't cost the taxpayer a dime. The president was clear about that in the executive order. But I think we have some very creative minds, 2 of which are sitting up here with me. And I think we'll begin moving very quickly on that.
So pretty darn consistent with what he's had to say many times in the past. He actually did a pretty interesting interview with Bitcoin Magazine not all too long ago. Certainly worth a watch, so track it down, check it out. And quickly checking in on Bitcoin dominance, we see that Bitcoin dominance remains strong. At the time of making this video, it looks like Bitcoin dominance is ready to make another move to the upside. Whether Bitcoin goes up or down, it just continues to pull the oxygen out of the entire crypto space. Kind of par for the course though. Bitcoin is the king. Through every cycle I've been through, Bitcoin always makes its moves first. Alts usually benefit later. But if we zoom this chart out a little bit, we can see ever since 2022 that this Bitcoin dominance has been in a very strong uptrend to the upside, putting in higher highs, higher lows along the way, of course. We do see some really short-lived alt seasons, this one right back here, and we see a little tiny one right here as well. But every single time this happens, Bitcoin dominance picks itself back up and just continues to march higher. For a meaningful alt season, usually the dominance will do an absolute waterfall to the downside. The last time we had a big alt season was right here. As you can see, dominance just bleeds quickly and then grinds out those lows for a period of time. And during those times is usually when altcoins do those phenomenal moves. Now, I tend to think that we're going to get an alt season. I'm looking at Q4 personally. Could it happen sooner? Sure, I'd accept that. But I think things look like Q4 will be an interesting time for the space. But let's just take it level by level, and we'll see what happens when the time comes. Let's go ahead and quickly check in on the price action of Bitcoin, see how Bitcoin is responding to the week's events thus far. And we can see at the time I'm making this video that Bitcoin really hasn't done a heck of a lot. You can see it's working on a little bit of an indecision candle. Some might call it a spinning top, but to be fair, it's not confirmed just yet. We can see that the daily candle still has 4.5 hours remaining from the time I'm making this video. So does Bitcoin close the day positively or negatively remains to be seen, at least from when I'm recording. We do see, however, that Bitcoin has been working on a midterm downtrend ever since putting in its all-time high back here on May 22nd. We can observe a really nice response off the 55 EMA, that's that green line right here, producing a really nice bounce to the upside, very tradable indeed. Bitcoin came up to around that $110,000 mark, and then a bunch of war FUDs started taking place, and of course the market sold off once again, and Bitcoin was no exception. But that was technically speaking the first major lower high since Bitcoin put in its all-time high back here in May. Bitcoin comes down, hits the 89 EMA right here, Trump comes out, says there's a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Of course, markets responded positively to that, and nice moves were produced to the upside once again. But it does remain to be seen if the ceasefire holds. Now, folks operating with a bearish bias are probably on lower high watch. As you can see, if Bitcoin was to roll over from here, it would be putting in another lower high and what would be a series of lower highs along the way, letting us know that the downtrend for now is still intact. Does that necessarily mean that Bitcoin goes to another lower low? Not necessarily. But if Bitcoin was to roll over from here and put in another lower low, the first area I'll be personally watching is right down here. You can see the 200 moving average is down there, and you can see that the 100 is just crossing through that. So there's a little bit of confluence. It also lines up a little bit with this price structure back here. So the first area I'd be watching if Bitcoin was to produce another lower low in this little consolidation downtrend, I would probably be watching around 96,000. So we'll see if and when that happens. Now, folks operating with a bullish bias would probably be looking for Bitcoin to at least get above this pivot rate back here. And again, that's coming in around the mid $110,000 mark. If Bitcoin starts producing candle body closures above that level on convincing volume down below, then that could be indicating that Bitcoin's undoing this little bit of downtrend and get ready to move to the upside once again. For me personally, I'd be using the all-time high as my confirmation right back here in May. So if Bitcoin starts closing candle bodies above 112,000 on good volume down below, that would probably do it for me, and I'd be looking for Bitcoin to re-enter price discovery, and the fun would be on once again. So right now, bears likely on lower high watch in this area here, and for bulls, likely looking for confirmation closures at least above this pivot at 110,000. And for the more conservative bulls, we'd be looking for Bitcoin to break above that all-time high and hold above that on good volume. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's a quick update for you today. I'm going to be producing more of these updates going forward. I lost my voice for an extended period of time, but it is back now, so I'm looking forward to producing more content. So thanks so much, everyone, for coming by and checking out this video. Looking forward to seeing the next one, and until I do, have yourself a powerful day.